Well, I'm thinking about Robert Pirsig this afternoon while I'm riding around on my motorcycle. Robert Pirsig is the author of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, probably the greatest motorcycle road trip book ever written. He died recently. But his book was a wonderful narrative of his 2-week road trip with his 10-year-old son and a friend. And he wrote about stuff that he was thinking about while he was on his motorcycle. So he was the original motovlogger, but he did it with a pen and paper, not with a GoPro video. And his daily narratives on the motorcycle he called Chautauquas. That word comes from a place called Lake Chautauqua, New York, where these traveling self-help people, I guess the older versions of Tony Robbins and those people, would come through town and they would set up their tent meetings, and people would go out for these self-help lessons to learn how to lead a better life. And so he called his thoughts Chautauquas. And he would say, my Chautauqua today is about... So I'm going to try to channel Pirsig and maybe do some Chautauquas here. And I have a short little Chautauqua here this afternoon that I want to talk about around the subject of communication, especially communication with people that we disagree with. And nowhere is this more needed than in the world of politics. Now, I'm not going to talk about politics because I made a vow not to do that because it doesn't get us anywhere. And that's one of the problems, is that we are so polarized in our country today that we can't talk to each other. Sometimes we can't even talk to our own friends because we have not really thought through and learned how to master a certain form of communication. So there's 3 types of communication that we engage in: discussion, debate, and dialogue. Now, discussion is communication that's aimed at coming to some kind of a conclusion about something, where you're bouncing ideas back and forth, trying to make a decision. Well, we know that doesn't work in the area of politics. The next form is debate. And the purpose of debate is to be right and make the other person wrong. And we also know that certainly doesn't work in the area of politics. Matter of fact, it will damage relationships. The third one is dialogue. Now, dialogue is a rarely used form of communication because dialogue is all about listening and making a sincere and genuine effort to understand the other person's point of view, which is very difficult to do because in order to engage in honest dialogue, we don't have to give up our own opinions, but we have to kind of bundle them up and hang them out there in suspension while we're engaged in this process of listening. Now, we're totally free to bring that package of our opinions and beliefs back in exactly the same way they were when we started. But in many cases, honest dialogue will cause us to want to modify those beliefs or opinions just a little bit, if not to give them up totally. So some of the key things we have to remember to engage in sincere and honest dialogue is, first of all, to be aware of our intent in a conversation. What is your intent? Is your intent to win the argument, or is your intent to better understand the other person? The second thing we have to understand is to work on our listening skills and to realize that we can process information about 5 or 6 times faster than most people can talk. And that means we got a lot of spare time up there in our heads while somebody's talking. And unfortunately, sometimes we use that spare time to think about our rebuttal to what the other person's saying, our yeah but response, so we can win, instead of using that spare time to process what that person is saying and to formulate questions, not gotcha debate questions, but questions to better understand their point of view. And then that's the final thing we have to learn how to do to engage in dialogue, is to ask questions in a genuine spirit of inquiry. Not to ask questions like a lawyer does to trip up the other person, but to ask questions to try to genuinely understand their point of view. So for me, what I'm trying to do is to learn this art of dialogue and practice it more, especially in conversations that deal with politics, because I have harmed myself and other people in some of my strongly held beliefs and my willingness just to spout off those beliefs in the false belief that somehow I'm going to change the other person's point of view, and I'm just not going to do that. So once again, let me know what you think about those three forms of communication. Which ones do you engage in the most? What experiences have you had with practicing dialogue or studying dialogue? And if you think this is a worthwhile subject to go deeper in, let me know. I'll be glad to do that too. Love to hear your comments, and as always, subscribe. And thank you for listening this far. I'll see you the next time.